Kia ora, everybody. Welcome back to the Black Jersey. It's your boy Max, and I'm the host of this channel. Here in 2023, I made the promise to do a few more Q&A podcasts with players and fellow content creators, and I'm back here for another one. But first, I'll always give a big thank you to my patrons. Today's guest is probably the most famous player I've had on the channel. I'm probably going to get starstruck at some stage during the wee Q&A. So I'd like my guest to introduce herself.
Kia ora, everybody. My name is Chelsea Semple, nee Ali. Been playing rugby my whole life and been part of the Black Ferns for the last 11 years. But having a bit of a sabbatical, I guess, this year isn't pregnant. So we'll be watching from the sidelines, but still keen to stay involved. Love rugby. Do a bit of work with Sky Sport on the sidelines and on the breakdown and that. So yeah, just love the sport and looking forward to the chat with our boy Max here.
Yeah, Chelsea's done a fair bit for the women's game and stuff over the last decade or so. So I guess to start everything off, Chelsea, we'll need to learn a bit about you as we're going to kind of discuss your career, how it's made an impact on the growth of the game, and I guess the part you played in the build up to the World Cup in 2022. So we'll begin with when did you start playing rugby and why did you begin playing?
So I grew up in a small town, Tukurua, in the South Waikato, and I've just got an older brother. So he started when he was 5, and I'm only a year younger, and I wanted to do everything he did. So I've actually been playing rugby with the boys since I was 4 years old. There was no such things as full girls teams back then. So grew up playing with the boys, and then when I had to, I transitioned obviously to playing with the women. And yeah, I mean, I played a lot of different sports growing up, but growing up, I told people when they asked what I wanted to be an All Black. And it wasn't until I was much older watching the 2010 Women's World Cup that I actually realised that I could be a Black Fern. So yeah, I mean, that's the cool thing now that I just love to see is that so many young boys and girls know who the Black Ferns are and they can aspire to be Black Ferns from a young age. So that's an awesome part of the journey that I've seen.
It's a really good story there because just a year later, you made your Farah Palmer Cup debut in 2011 for Auckland straight out of school. Women's rugby was an amateur game back then, which is very weird considering the time we're in. So please describe what kind of competition the Farah Palmer Cup was and like what kind of commitment it was required for you to have for trainings, things like that, as it wasn't quite at the level it is today.
So first year out of high school, I was very, very lucky that that was the first year that a couple of the Black Fern players in the Waikato decided to start a club team here. We still did not have an FPC team, but it was the first club team that Waikato had had in ages, and that was out of the Waikato University, so varsity. So that meant I got a women's team to play for out of school, and I didn't have to travel to Auckland for clubs. So that was started by Crystal Kawa, who's current head coach of Chiefs Manawa, Victoria Grant, who's current coach of Hurricanes Poa, and Teresa Te Tamaki and ex Blackfern. And it was coached by Liam Messam. So it was pretty cool.
Oh,
And
that's a good coach there. Goodness me.
yeah,
Continue.
yeah, he was awesome. And I think it got a few extra girls along actually, so we could get a team together. So it was another bonus. But yeah, we'd travel to Auckland every weekend to play, which was cool. We loved it. And I was lucky enough to be spotted by the Black Fern selector that year I was playing first five at the time as a young 10. So I actually got invited to my first few Black Ferns camps that year, and then I got picked up by the Auckland Storm, which I never expected to happen. I was so young, and all these players around me were legends. I was playing with Anna Richards and Linda Itunu and Huri
Some
Emmanuel
goats
and all
right
the
there.
players, yeah, that I've watched for so long, and Emma Jensen. And like you said, it was a huge commitment. I was 18 and a student, so I didn't have the means to fund myself to travel to Auckland. We had 3 trainings a week and then often had to travel for the game or travel up to catch a plane to fly somewhere else to play. So it was a huge commitment, and I was lucky enough to have Muzza, Tours and T to kind of take me under their wing and drive me up to all these trainings. most nights. If I didn't have them, I'm not sure I would have been able to do it. But yeah, like I said, very grateful for them. And yeah, 1 year with Auckland Storm, we won that year, which Auckland had won many years in a row, so that wasn't a surprise. But we got to play the final at Waikato Stadium, which was cool. And then finally, the next year, the Waikato Women's FPC team was re-established, and yeah, got to play for my home province. I played for some of the Waikato like under 13 boys teams and that growing up, but it was awesome to finally be able to play for my home province.
Yeah, that's great stuff there. You also later became just the second woman to reach 50 games for Waikato after the team was re-established in 2012. So when it came to transferring and stuff, what were the feelings around leaving the Auckland Storm after a successful title? Was it pretty much a no-brainer just because Waikato is where you grew up?
Yeah, definitely a no-brainer. I grew up watching Waikato. I went to all their games, all the men's games, and idolised a lot of those men's players. So I always wanted to wear the red, yellow, black strip.
Good
It's my
stuff.
home. And yeah, I mean, I did have a couple years away in the middle there, helping the North Harbour women's team start their team, which was awesome for me as well. It was just really rewarding to work up there as a development officer and help them get off the ground. But then I came home again. So it took me a while to get those 50 caps. But yeah, it was awesome to get there and be there with Victoria Markia as well.
Loyalty is always rewarded, eh? So your Black Ferns Test debut, after just 2 years out of school, it was against England in 2013. It feels like a real shame to say this, eh? But like, as the team was relatively unknown back then, was the team given the same high quality resources as the All Blacks, or did players themselves have to pitch in for things like funding trips? How have things changed, I guess, since you came into the Black Ferns environment?
Yeah, look, when I first made the Black Ferns, it was just an absolute buzz and an absolute honour. And it was like Christmas for me because all of a sudden I got all this free Adidas kit, which I'd never had growing up. Um, like I said, I got to play alongside legends and idols, and I got to travel parts of the world, and that stuff was all covered. So to me, we had great resources at that time. I guess it's not until you look at the differences in between the two teams that you start to think, oh, there's actually night and day between what's given to these teams. But for like I said, for me at the time, there was everything I needed and more, and I had the honor of wearing the black jersey. I think because I was so young,
Hmm.
um, I didn't have to sacrifice much. But looking back now, the women that had jobs, that have families, that had kids and mortgages, I could see where their struggles came from. I can see that now that I'm older and then have some of those commitments as well. Um, but yeah, things have got kept getting slightly better over the years, and I'm happy to say that it's still nowhere near where it needs to be in terms of equality, and with resources, with wages, with treatment across New Zealand. And I hope it just keeps continuing to grow. I mean, the Women's World Cup, us winning that on home soil and seeing how New Zealand bought into that should speak volumes for what needs to be done in the women's game. And I'll keep being an advocate to make sure that we keep getting more and more equality in that space.
Good stuff. I'm always going to be backing the old Black Ferns whether at a home World Cup. You went on to achieve some really good stuff in recent years as well. In that black jersey, like you won the 2017 Rugby World Cup. You were also a leader for the Chiefs Manawa in the first ever game of women's rugby that I watched. It was a clash against the Blues at Eden Park. As a player, what would your greatest achievement have to be?
Well, that's a tricky one. I mean, obviously, winning a World Cup was awesome. Um, yeah, helping the first ever Chiefs Manawa team, helping the first ever Waikato women's team and North Harbour women's team. Anywhere that I can help with growth and um, helping the game get out to the public, I'm pretty proud of that stuff. So all of that. In 2020, um, I was lucky enough to be awarded Black Ferns Player of the Year, which as a young girl, that's something you don't even dream about. To
Mhm.
be given that trophy as one of the best players in that year. It's pretty humbling. So, I mean, that's something that I'll keep and cherish forever, and something I can be proud to show my kids one day, I guess. So, yeah, there's lots of things to be proud of. There's been lots of struggles along the way, but it's all made worth it with the highs.
Yeah, it's always good to have the counterbalance to really make the highs stand out more. During your career, you've also become an established member of the Breakdown panel, my favorite rugby show on Sky TV, as you said earlier. How do you actually get involved with commentary, and what's the best part of the show? My favorite show. Take it away.
Oh, I honestly don't really 100% know how I got involved. I think just being captain of Waikato for a few years and of Harbour and vice captain of Chiefs, you do quite a lot of interviews, I guess. And yeah, I guess it's just about meeting people and crossing paths and making connections. And yeah, I just got asked to do a little bit of sideline stuff, and yeah, found that I really enjoyed it. And I mean, I love rugby, like I said. So anywhere that I get to talk about rugby, it's a dream job for me. But I tell you, with the breakdown, there's nothing more intimidating than walking on set and you've got Sir John Kerwin and
Fair
Goldie and
enough.
Mill, and they've all got such big opinions, and you're just like this absolute rookie young girl, like coming on the show, and you get to, have banter with them and give them your
Yeah.
opinions and agree with them, and it's really overwhelming. But those guys have been just absolutely amazing to me. They've helped me so much, and they're actually so kind off the screen as well,
Oh,
always
that's
checking
great.
in and making sure I'm okay. And actually, someone else, a couple of other people who have been just absolutely amazing to me is both Kirsty Stanway and Izzy Dag. They're always checking in and making sure I'm kind of comfortable with learning the ropes and all that stuff. So yeah, I've been real lucky. The Sky crew are amazing to work with.
Yeah, definitely a great bunch over there. Now with getting on back on track rather to your career as a Black Fern, man, it was really not a good year. 2021 was a bit of a low point for the Black Ferns. You sadly had to actually play in two of the matches on that fateful tour. But long term, I reckon a lot of good came out of it. Like it was a bit of a turning point for the Black Ferns with the short-term damage leading to some positive events. Like when watching that tour, I can't help but feel I noticed like a disconnect between players and the coach. Without getting like too crazy into the details, like what exactly happens that year that leads to the winless tour of England and France?
There were a number of factors that contribute to that. I mean, obviously, we'd been basically in lockdown for a few years. It's no secret that we hadn't played a test in 2.5 years, which
Hmm.
is huge. You can't replicate test match footy at home. So we were under conditioned, we were under trained, we were under coached. We hadn't had enough time together. And you got to realize at the time as well, we were all still working full time jobs and trying to train before and after, whereas those teams were full time professional. So
Hmm.
that tour was extremely tough, especially for someone who loves the Black Ferns. And I'm so passionate about that team, and I'm so proud to be part of that team. And to see the backlash that we got from that, it really, really hurt. And behind the scenes, I guess what people didn't see was just how much our girls and our whole staff and team were really hurting from that. We felt like we'd let the country down. But in saying that, if we didn't go through that and that didn't happen, we wouldn't have won the World Cup this year.
Hmm.
Things wouldn't have the way they did. Girls, we got to kick up the butt basically. So all of a sudden, we got full time contracts. There was a big shift in management, big shift in leadership and standards and everything. So I mean, at the time, yep, it sucked, and one of the toughest things we've ever been through as a team. But we rebuilt from there, obviously, and came back on top of the world. So
Was I think well worth it in the end. After
yeah.
Glenn Moore resigned, you got the best part of it all, rather. Wayne Smith, the best like ever coach in our game. He became the Black Ferns coach. I've previously uploaded a few YouTube videos discussing his ideas of team selections and team culture. What was I guess, the first thing you noticed that was different under his leadership?
The first thing I guess was just he. he had absolute fresh eyes. And look, I've played under Glenn Moore for a very long time, and I have a lot of respect for him. He done wonders. He won us a World Cup. We won so many series with him, but he was very loyal to players,
Hmm.
and so wasn't much change in the team. But it wasn't just Wayne Smith coming in, and it was Graham Henry and Chrono and a few of the others, and it was just a completely fresh page for everyone. And all of a sudden, everyone knew that anyone could be selected. So the level of everyone goes up because all of a sudden there's hope for girls who have never even been to a Black Ferns camp, and we saw that with kind of final selections. So many debutantes in 2022, a massive shift in the type of personnel in the team, I guess, a brand new captain, new leadership group, just a whole different dynamic. But I will say one thing about Wayne Smith that sets him apart from any other coach that I've worked with, and that's just how he gets to know you as a player. He
Hmm.
wants to know about family. He wants to know about your dreams outside of rugby, and he makes you feel really connected to the team, and I guess really valued. So I think that goes a long way, and especially in the women's game because, as we know, our women are a bit more emotional and in touch with everything. So just being able to feel part of something and feel welcomed goes a massive way to putting a performance out on the field as a team.
I didn't actually prepare this question over here, but like those real fresh perspectives you've discussed with me. I've noticed, I guess, a wee bit of a pattern of teams getting a nice wee boost with new coaching changes and stuff ahead of a World Cup. So would you actually attest to coaching changes, personnel changes shortly before one actually being quite good for a team in a World Cup cycle?
Well, I guess it depends on the circumstances of the team. Have they been performing? Is there, rapport between the coaches and the leadership group and the rest of the team? Yeah, obviously, with a new coach comes new ideas, but it might not always be the best thing. So, yeah, I guess it comes down to all those things and how well the team's performing.
Now that's all good. I thought it might just interject myself in there, since you know your stuff, see what you think of it. Smithy, he also made what I thought was a really, really bizarre call. Like he left a fair bit of experience out of his initial squad, like yourself and Kendra Coxedge, one of just a few survivors, like Eloise Blackwell and Les Elder, after being captains of the Black Ferns, for some reason missed out. What do you reckon his approach to these massive changes were informed by?
Yeah, Les and Ella missing out was huge, and it did impact the team because we've played with those girls for a long time, and they've both done so much for the jersey, and not many people would know that behind the scenes with all the changes that happen with the new coaching coming through, with the new contracts for the girls, those two and Les Elder especially took so much on her shoulders to get a lot of that stuff across the line and to make sure that we were better looked after and better resourced. So
Hmm.
she put a lot of energy into that, and yeah, look, I felt for them a lot. Um, they didn't really get an opportunity to. Well, they didn't get an opportunity to play in the black jersey in 2022, and they were putting their hand up and training every day, and I think that's testament to both of them and their attitudes, and they still got in behind the girls. Um, I caught up with them a few times, and yeah, it was really hard to miss out on the team as I know now as well. But I
Yeah.
think with Wayne's approach, the leadership group had a massive part to play um, in, I guess, the restructure of everything. And I don't think it's anything against them as players or people because they're amazing players and people. But he just wanted something completely fresh in terms of who's running the team, the ideas, the voices that were being told to the team. And unfortunately, those two missed out probably because of something like that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, yeah. I'm really glad that like he wasn't holding anything against anyone for that 2021 tour, eh? You unfortunately also had a bit of a hard year yourself in 2022 with concussion ruling you out of the World Cup. Geez, you left a bit of a hole in the team, eh? you got that hole filled by a few youngsters and Amy Duplessis and Sylvia Brunt coming into the extended squad for the tournament. What kind of advice did you pass down to the younger players for the World Cup?
Yeah, I had a really my toughest year in rugby actually last year. I missed out on all of most of Opiki with COVID. I
Mm,
had a hamstring, got concussed. I had the flu in the Pac 4 tour,
mm,
but I wasn't actually ruled out from World Cup with concussion. At the end of the day, I just didn't have the opportunity to put my hand up as much in
okay.
2020. Didn't um, yeah, I just didn't have the game time, so I wasn't selected. They went with the youth and some of the sevens girls that were brought back in, and it was really hard for me. I hadn't missed out on a tour since 2012, since the end of 2012 when I
Mm,
first went over. So that was the first time for me, and yeah, it was a massive, massive thing I had to go through. But at the end of the day, like I've said all along, I absolutely love the Black Ferns. I'm so passionate about the team, and I want nothing but for them to succeed, whether I'm in the team or not. So I did, yeah, have sit downs with both Sylvia and Amy Duplessis. Sent them quite constant messages throughout the World Cup, just
awesome.
checking in. Um, pressure's a funny thing, and you don't know the pressure of a World Cup until you've been in one. So yeah, I just tried to make sure that they were comfortable, and I knew they were getting looked after by everyone else in the team.
Mm,
Um, they didn't end up playing many minutes, but I know they would have contributed so much off the field as well. Both young absolute superstars in the making. So I'm happy to see people who put their hand up and put the work in, kind of come in and take over those positions. But not saying I'm done yet. To be fair.
good stuff. Good stuff. Really, I'm actually like loving the whole leadership that I'm kind of learning off you, like seeing the mentality behind it. While you weren't able to play in the World Cup, your commentary role on my favorite show, of course, The Breakdown, did allow you to remain on the sideline for Spark, covering the games. Um, was like, is there like any hints standing out at you that the team's progress had continued since you weren't selected and stuff?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, staying involved in that way and getting to do some analysis of the games was awesome for me. But you saw the team grow from strength to strength every week, and I mean, I've
Absolutely.
been in a long time, so I'm friends with all these girls. So yeah, for sure, I was messaging and just checking in and seeing how everything was, and the whole time everyone seemed to be happy and growing constantly and just loving Wayne Smith's approach. So I knew because the girls hadn't had much time together prior to 2022, every game would see them grow because what New Zealand has that no other team has is just absolute natural ability and flair. And all you need is a
Mm.
bit of time to be able to work out those combinations, to trust each other, to play like your authentic self. And then that's when that's when New Zealand teams become unstoppable. So that's what Wayne Smith brought as well. He brought just the ability for girls to play what they saw in front. It wasn't too structured. It was just use your natural ability, use what growing up in this country gave you, and play rugby. And I think that's what we saw, particularly towards the end there. The girls were just confident and just trusting and believing in each other. It was so awesome to watch.
So you think that a lot of like the defense and stuff was kind of taken out by not really a lot of pre-planned attack moves. Like was I like reading into some of it a bit too much and I was making my analysis videos potentially.
Yeah, we still had like set piece strike moves definitely, but after that it was just play. It wasn't okay. We're going to set
Yeah.
two rucks to the left, going to kick down the tram lines or anything like that. It was just manipulate them, manipulate their back three, look for space, look for offloads, and play on top is what we called it. So constantly play on top. If you're even the best defense in the world, if you're constantly on top, giving offloads, setting quick rucks, just going again, they're eventually going to get on the back foot. And I think that's where Ruahei Demant really shone. She just took that concept of playing on top and as a 10, being able to run the team and just, dart to the line with the ball and have players running off her. I think she was the biggest difference in us winning the
Mm.
World Cup and why she deserved the Women's International Player of the Year as well.
That's a really interesting concept you've told me about. It actually kind of gets me thinking. It reminds me of how the Irish played against the All Blacks. I'll give the audience a bit of a laugh at this one here because a lot of fellow content creators, they know the story about the whole bias thing. So like as a player for the Black Ferns, like did the World Cup commentary of any kind get your bias to like impact the commentary, anything like that? See if everyone enjoys this one.
I think because I know the girls on such a personal level, it's hard not to really hone in on talking about them and their
Yeah,
strengths. But yeah, I try to stay pretty impartial, and I like to do my research on players in the other teams and to quite a deep level as well, just to give a little bit of background on some of them and highlight their strengths as well and their team strengths. So
awesome.
yeah, I mean, it's hard. Everyone's got bias. You
Mm.
can't not have when you've played in a team for so long and you're talking about them. But yeah, I mean, I try my best. I don't know how well I did, but
So Chelsea, after the Black Ferns World Cup win, it showed that some investments had really paid off. Just a few years back, you made this wee social media post where you kind of made me realize the struggle that a few of the Black Ferns were having. You discussed talking points such as the burnout from working as a teacher and commentator, at the same time as having the training regime of a pro athlete. Now that the team has won a World Cup on home soil to a crowd I was grateful to be a part of 40,000 at Eden Park, do you reckon that the struggle that you and a few other players went through before the Black Ferns became a professional outfit has been worth it?
100%. um, yeah, look, I wrote that post. It was after the Chiefs versus Blues first ever Opaki game, actually, and obviously coming down from a bit of a high, straight back into reality.
Mm,
Um, did get a lot of traction and a lot of
yeah.
other, not only female rugby players, but female sports people really
Mm,
related. Um, I guess it just shone a light
yeah.
on what we're going through as female rugby players. But
Mm,
last year, 2022, was the first time we've been full-time professional, which means we don't work another job.
mm,
So that was amazing for me who's been around a long time to be able to just focus all your energy on rugby and nutrition
yeah.
and recovery and mental skills and everything you need to be the best you can be. It was a dream come true. But I think going through that struggle made us more appreciative and made us just, I guess, buy into being a full-time professional athlete more because we
Yeah.
know what we're for. Um, and look, being one of the first full-time contracted women was awesome, but there's still some things lacking from NZR in terms of there was only 30 contracted players in the country, and when
Yeah.
you're playing OP and FPC, all of a sudden you've got 30 women who are training way up at this level, being able to put everything into being the best player they can be. Then you've got the next lot of players who aren't far off behind that group
But they're
who
not
are
quite
still.
getting in there, eh? Yeah.
That's where I saw the struggle, and that's where
Mm.
kind of made me a little bit. Yeah, I felt for those players because all of a sudden this group up here is just getting away from them a little bit more when they're not that far off, and it's only one person's opinion as well getting those contracts. So
Yeah.
that's where I see the need to invest a lot more, not necessarily in more pay, which let's admit would be lovely and a lot easier if there was more pay, but I'd prefer there to be a lot more contracted girls across the country.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is with investments into things like that, like you just kind of got to bite the bullet and stuff. Like it's clear that the Black Ferns are doing so much better than so many other female sports teams around the world, but like it'll be so much better to have just like that third choice bunch of players getting the same wage so everyone's up to speed, eh?
Well, I think what we're gonna start seeing is
Mm.
overseas club teams starting to offer contracts, and that's already happening kind of in the England Premiership and even in Japan. So girls that don't get contracts, the next lot will start taking up those opportunities, and why wouldn't they? So I
Mm.
think yeah, the investment in that level, and that's where Super Rugby kind of comes in. But it's such a
Yeah.
short campaign at the moment, so that competition just needs to grow and keep growing, and hopefully, be similar to how the men's do it, and have full time kind of Chiefs contracts. That would be amazing for our game, I think.
Yes, up the Chiefs. It would also be really good, speaking of the devil, to like get the girls heading over to Aussie to give the older Waratahs ladies a go, things like that. And
I think
me,
we'll
oh, sorry, keep going, Chelsea. Sorry, then.
no. I'm just saying, I think we'll see some of that happening. I know there's talks of preseason games with the likes of the Tars and some of the other teams. So obviously our competition's locked in for this year, but there's already discussions happening on some of the panels I'm kind of involved in with merging the two competitions next year, which automatically puts a lot more investment into the game.
Yeah,
So
that'd be
yeah,
awesome.
hopefully I mean, after the World Cup, you can't not keep growing the game. It can't just stay the same and stay how it is with the investment. It needs to be way up there.
Couldn't agree more. Like I've said it many a time. Like I enjoyed the Black Ferns a bit more than the All Blacks last year, for goodness sake. Like you can't just do nothing with an investment.
The Black Ferns play rugby that the country wants to see. It's
Pretty
exciting, it's
much.
fast, and the girls are relatable and lovable and not too media trained. And it's just such a great product. We just need the marketing and the investment and the resource behind it, and we'll see it just go from strength to strength.
So speaking of Super Rugby, so myself and the fellow Chiefs fans, we're going to be missing you during Super Rugby Aupiki because of your maternity leave. Is a return to rugby on the cards for the future, Chelsea?
I am already missing rugby so much. The last game I played was the one where I got knocked out in the first 10 minutes, and that was quite a scary thing I went through as well.
Mm.
First concussion, so yeah, that's the last time I played. And as a player who's given most of their life so far to the game, that's not how I want to end my career. So look, I'm going to keep training right through this pregnancy because I enjoy training. I love it. I'm going to try stay involved with the Chiefs, with the Waikato team, and help out where I can. And
Good
if
on
my
you.
body do, I will come back afterwards, and that may not be internationally, but playing for Waikato again would be amazing for me, and just being able to get in there and even just help with the leadership side of things and help young girls coming through in my position. That's how I see myself giving back after starting a family. But like I said, I mean, my hips are dodgy, my back's dodgy, so we'll just see. We'll see how the body holds up.
Yeah, got to really wait and see. Like I have heard a lot of the stories with being an older athlete, things like that. It starts to be a bit hard on you, but if the Black Ferns call up does turn up at the end of the day, we'll finish this off with a pretty important question. If it does come your way, are you gonna go back to test level?
If that opportunity comes my way again, I will be ecstatic, and 100% I would take that opportunity with both hands. Like I said, that's not how I want to finish my career in the black jersey. Um, so yeah, I mean, for me, when I train hard. I'm not going to train at half pie just because I'm not thinking about international footy again. So yeah, I guess we'll just see where the journey takes me. I'm not putting pressure on myself to, have to get back in there. But yeah, like you said, if the opportunity arises, then 100%, it's my team. It's the team I grew up dreaming to play for, and it's the team that's made all my dreams come true in the last decade. So, of course.
Really awesome stuff there, Chelsea. Thank you so much for joining me for this wee podcast over here. For you guys in the audience, just flick your comments down below and like this video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to me, and obviously wish Chelsea the best luck for the baby on the way and things like that. Cheers for watching, guys.
Cool. Thank you.